I'm with Gidon Ariel from Root Source, and we're talking about the Israeli hostages in Gaza. It's been over 450 days in captivity, and we're hearing about hostage talks. Are you hopeful that there will be a deal to free the hostages?
First of all, thank you very much for having me. And first of all, it's not only the Israeli hostages. There are Americans there, there are Canadians there, there are Filipinos, not to mention the ones that already came out a little under a year ago. So it really was, they did not care who, what, where. They took Arabs, Muslims, Bedouins. They just took whoever they can. About 250 people that they took hostage. By now, there are only about 100, including over 50 who have already been declared dead. So we also want their bodies back in order to give them a proper funeral. This is just quite simply the biggest humanitarian horror in recorded history. It's real. I just cannot imagine. And what's even worse, like the 99th blow, is how little people all over the world really understand how horrific it is and who are the good guys and who are the bad guys over here.
Has it shocked you when you've seen people pulling posters down off walls?
It's mostly shocking to see how evil people... It doesn't shock me tragically when I see a terrorist doing shocking, horrific things, terrible things, terrorists. That's the name of what they do. But if somebody seems to be members of a civil society, they should be normal. Why do you have to go tear things down? I mean, what is it? I think it has a lot to do with what we call in Israel Dora TikTok, the TikTok generation, where people do crazy things to get everybody up in arms, and as long as they post it on social media. But it's really horrible. I really cannot understand how people can just don't understand that this is somebody's child. This is somebody's grandmother. There are people who survived the Holocaust just to be kidnapped into a tunnel in Gaza by Palestinian Hamas terrorists. It's just hard to think about this even.
Now, obviously, Hamas wants something to release the hostage. What do they want? And what do Israelis feel about giving Hamas what they want?
I think that has to do with what Hamas was thinking of when they first committed this horror. I think that they were going to really try to do the first step in obliterating Israel. They were watching the news, and they saw how in democratic Israel there's an opposition politically and a coalition politically, and so the opposition is against the coalition, and they're fighting each other. And they said, "Great, here's our chance. The Israelis, the Jews, are weak because they're fighting each other. Here's our chance to go in, and we're also going to connect to the other members of the axis of evil, Hezbollah in the north, and the Houthis in Yemen, and of course Iran, and all of these members of this evil axis have attacked Israel on and since October 7th, and they probably thought, this is it, we are going to finally succeed in doing what we've been trying to do ever since we came around, which is destroy Israel. But they underestimated Israel's secret weapon of when they come to fight against us, we stand up like lions until we obliterated the Hamas's leading level of leaders, Yahya Sinwar and Muhammad Def and all sorts of people like that. And who's leading them now? I don't even know. So they thought they would not have to negotiate with us at all because there would be no Israelis left. Instead, I guess their plan B was we'll have some hostages, and we'll figure out what to do with them then. So I think that they just want to now say, okay, whatever happens, we will declare that we won. But right now we're pulling back because we're getting killed day after day. So I think that what they want is an end to the war. But I don't want an end to this war because this is something that I haven't heard a lot. This war is not only about the 250 hostages or the 100 hostages or the some 50 or so live hostages. If there hadn't been a single hostage taken, this war would have had to be about the obliteration of Hamas, because over 1,200 Israelis and others were killed on October 7th. This was an attack that basically said either be killed or kill us. And so we don't have to stop just because we get our hostages back. The entire world has to say, what do you have to negotiate with these criminals for? With these horrible, evil people? The entire world is going to say, we are now going to fight. What happened? Just because it's tragic the way that the world looks at this, because America didn't go into World War II until Pearl Harbor was attacked. And Pearl Harbor was horrific. Hundreds of, I don't remember, thousands of people were killed on Pearl Harbor day of attack. But if America had entered the war because we are fighting good against evil, we are going to, it's true, we are going to put ourselves on the line, perhaps sacrifice some of our own lives, but we have to obliterate the war and the evil. And ultimately, that Nazi evil was obliterated. Well, guess what, world? The entire world has to stick around, has to come together to obliterate the Hamas evil, the Hezbollah evil, and the Iranian evil. The axis of evil, as everybody knows to call it. But what can you do? It's mostly attacking Israel. People don't realize that Israel is the canary in the coal mine, because what they do first to as they say, what they do first to the Saturday people, they're going to come afterwards and do to the Sunday people. After they finish with Israel, the little devil, as they call it, the little Satan, they're going to go after the United States, the big Satan. And after the United States, Europe is easy. So this is what their plan is, and this is why the entire world has to stand together with Israel to fight them. Unfortunately, they're not. But fortunately, Israel is the strongest army in this area and probably in the entire world. So they're trying to stop the war. I hope, and a lot of people think we definitely want every hostage back. Every single hostage is my own brother, is my own sister, my own grandmother. Every single one. So we're not going to stop until we get like that. And we've had hostages in the past, even bodies of hostages that we just kept on going and figured out what to do until we finally got them back. And we are going to get every single last hostage back.
Is Israel going to have to pay the price of releasing Palestinians with blood on their hands to get them back? And is that a price to pay?
I'm afraid that that's what's going to happen to do. There's tremendous pressure on the government on the side of most of the families of the hostages to do whatever it takes. I don't care if you have to create another 100 Adolf Hitlers, as long as I get my people back. Well, that's ridiculous. That's really short-sighted. And I really have to say thank you to Prime Minister Netanyahu and our government that is withholding that's the worst kind of pressure, because that is your own family pressuring you. It's one thing when your enemy pressures you, when your neighbors pressure you, but when your own family pressures you to do something, that's the hardest pressure to withhold. But Netanyahu is withholding it, and hopefully he, as he has shown, is going to be able to do one, as I like to say, do 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. He is going to finish the war. He's going to get all the hostages back, and he's going to totally obliterate Hamas. When the war started, the government of Israel said there are actual goals to this war. And those goals are get all of the hostages back, totally obliterate Hamas, and make it safe for all of Israel to live anywhere in Israel as far as Gaza is concerned, which means that there will be not only no more Hezbollah, but no more Jihad Islami, and the people who are going to be ruling in Hamas will not be a terror entity. And I do believe that Netanyahu, with his nerves of steel, is going to stand strong in all of these goals.
What conditions are the hostages being held in, and have the Red Cross been able to get in and see them?
I'm pretty sure that the Red Cross has not been able to get in and see them. I would hate to be an employee of the Red Cross who would be able to visit a hostage that we haven't even gotten word about that he's even alive, not to mention where he is. And that Red Cross person would have to say, I can't tell you where he is. That's horrific. So I'm pretty sure that they haven't been able to. In other words, Hamas is not participating in that civil participation of rules of war, rules of conduct of war. The situation that they're in is horrific. They don't know when they're going to see the day of light again. They don't know if tomorrow the person who is guarding them is going to have a bad hair day and just kill them. They don't know if they are once again going to be sexually abused whether they're a man or a woman, or frankly a cadaver. The people that we're dealing with are not civil people whatsoever. And not to mention people who were kidnapped before they even knew how to walk. Less than 1-year-old children were kidnapped that they've already celebrated their second birthday in captivity. It's just something that is impossible to fathom. There's absolutely no Western civil country that we hear about ever or would consider living in could possibly fathom such horror. And again, the worst part of it is how the entire world is not only not coming to our side, but they're even saying, no, Hamas is right, Israel is wrong. Just horrific.
Now, Israel was thrust into this war. How has Netanyahu responded in this war? Do you feel that he's been doing a good job?
I have to admit that I'm a member of the Central Committee of Prime Minister Netanyahu's Likud political party. I'm not a member of the Knesset, but I'm a member of the Central Committee. And I think he's been doing an excellent job. As I said before, he's fighting a war on 7 or 8 fronts with both hands tied behind his back, with all of that pressure going on within Israel. And a part of that pressure is the fact that he is now being tried for something that he supposedly did about, 10, 15 years ago or something like that, which means that he has to show up to the court 2 or 3 days a week. It's just absolutely incredible. In other words, I'm not only going to run this war, but I'm going to run the war when for 10 hours a day I'm in court, and I have to prepare for that court date also. A total magician, as he is called. I think he's doing an excellent job, and I'm really very upset at people who are not putting all of the problems aside until he wins this war.
It seems crazy that to take him to court now for things that he's done in the past while you're actually fighting a war.
Every day that he's been there, he's been given a piece of paper saying you must, and he said, excuse me, I need 10 minutes to go lead the country while there's a war. It's not like he's being tried in Brazil or something like that. He's been tried in Israel. Why can't people understand that we need a democratically elected leader, and he won by a landslide, to run the country at this situation? It's really incredible that there's one party, Gidon Ariel's party, that joined the coalition because of the war. There was another party that joined and then left, and now it's Gidon Ariel that is rejoining the coalition. But the rest of the opposition should have said, you know what? There's a war. When there's a war, there is no opposition. We've had a tradition of that. In the 6-Day War, for the first time, Menachem Begin became a member of the government. He was a minister without portfolio. Afterwards, he quit, and that was in 1967 when he joined, June 6th. And by 1969 or 1970, I don't remember exactly what year, for some reason he said, no, I'd rather stay in the opposition, and went back into the opposition, obviously, for a much better reason than just like I feel like it. And ultimately he became the Prime Minister of Israel in 1978, or was it 1979, excuse me. But he was in the coalition in the 6-Day War. We are not right now fighting a war that is harder than the 6-Day War. The 6-Day War was, believe it or not, 6 days long. The war that we are fighting now is over 15 months long. And the very War of Independence was shorter than this. So we're fighting a real war. There's nobody in Israel that is saying, it's not a war, Netanyahu is doing it for himself. Some people say that, but they don't get a lot of airtime. Serious people recognize this is a war for Israel's future. And I think that all Israel has to stand behind the government of Netanyahu today.
And of course, the war this time is actually fighting terrorists, which is different than the 6-Day War. And also you've got hostages within that as well. So it's completely different, isn't it?
Absolutely right. And there's no easy war. And there's nothing easy. And another thing that I'm just incredulous about is how so many young men and women are willing to lay down their lives for the people of Israel. They're saying, this is what I trained for. This is what I'm here for. My heart explodes with pride for people like that, because these are obviously the best young men and women of Israel. And they're not only young, some of them are grandparents already. They came back in reserve duty and they volunteered. And when you have people like that who are saying, I'm going to fight for my home, for my family, for members of my family that I don't even know, then that really goes to show what kind of people that we have here.
Tell us about the book that you've published, The List 2023.
Okay, that's a sharp turn. As we mentioned, I'm from Root Source. Root Source is a platform for pro-Israel Christians and Jews to engage with each other, primarily by studying the concepts, ideas, and texts that we have in common. But a large part of what we do is publishing. Root Source Press has published it until today about 18 books, and one of our biggest bestsellers is called The List. My partner, my co-founder at Root Source, Bob Odell, together with another friend, Ray Montgomery, they put together an entire list of all the Christian anti-Semitic incidents in history. And we published that in 2018. And it was, again, 2,000 years worth of anti-Semitic events, and it was about a 700-page book. And I said, okay, but there's still anti-Semitism in the world. So in 2019, we published The List 2019, not just Christian anti-Semitism, but all sorts of anti-Semitism. And that book was closer to 800 pages long. In other words, more anti-Semitism happened in 1 year than in 2,000 years. And after that, in 2020 and 2021 and 2022. And just now, we've published the book. We launched it a few months ago, but I just picked up from the author's copy of it, an author's proof of The List 2023 Anti-Semitic Incidents Worldwide. But this is part one, because 2023, of course, on October 7th, was when the Hamas war began. And the war did not only begin on the Gaza border, but it was all over the world, because there was a tremendous outpouring of anti-Semitic events all over the world. And so this book was before that started, and we are, with God's help, going to publish The List Hamas War, maybe part one, maybe part two, maybe part three. We don't know yet how many we're going to be publishing. I heard that the Anti-Defamation League has put together, claims that they have a list of 10,000 anti-Semitic incidents during 2023. We only have room for about 1,000 in a book like this. So I don't think we're going to publish 10 books, just for 10 volumes just for 1 year. But you'll talk to me about it when we put out the next one.
Do you see anti-Semitism as a spiritual battle?
As a spiritual person, there can be no question that that is true. But Paul, I have to tell you that even there are a lot of people who are on the fence spiritually. They are on the side of good, or at least they're not horrifically on the side of bad, but they don't feel comfortable talking about things that are spiritual. So I think that this is a fight within a war. It's a war, a spiritual battle of the true evil, serious evil, fighting against good and God's people. But ultimately we shall see that a not smaller part of this battle was the people who don't recognize this as a spiritual battle and don't see that this is the time to take a side in this tremendous spiritual battle. I really think more and more that we are getting closer and closer to the end of times, and where everybody will recognize, as it says in the Bible, that God is one and his name is one. And right now, we are, you could say, either lucky or unlucky enough to live in this period where we are seeing that happening day and day out.
What is your prayer for the nation of Israel at the moment, at this time?
As everyone else, we are praying for the immediate return of the hostages to their families. We are praying that no more soldiers fall in war. The two most hated words in Hebrew nowadays are hutar lepirsum, which means it has become permitted to tell. In other words, when a soldier falls, they don't announce it on the radio until they've already told all the members of that soldier's family. So the first time anybody finds out about it is when we hear those two horrific words, that it has been permitted to announce. And may we never hear those words again. And may the people of Israel recognize that they have friends around the world. And may those friends recognize that it is up to them to stand up and be friends with the people of Israel, because the people of Israel are the people of God. And God wants to see who is standing on his side today. And so I'm praying for Israel as, like I said before, the canary in the coal mine, but I'm praying for all of your listeners and all of their friends and friends of friends and family that they stand up for what is right and they stand up for God's side.
What's your website for people who'd like to know more?
That is www.root-source.com. Best to Google root as a tree and source as water. Gidon Ariel at root-source.com. And I'd be very, very, very happy for anybody who wants to talk to me some more. Please go to that website and say that you heard me on Paul Calvert's program, and I'll be happy to engage with you by phone or by email or by Zoom, any way that's comfortable for you.
Well, Gidon, thank you very much for sharing today.
Shalom, shalom.